Hi there, thanks for joining us for today's webinar, which is presented by Spotlight Sports Group. I'm Bruce Millington, former editor of the Racing Post. We're here to talk about actionable sports betting content and its importance in the ever-changing sports betting environment, particularly in light of tightening regulations. Got a terrific panel to discuss that. Looking forward to seeing what they've got to say about it. Let's meet them straight away. We'll start with Rob Black from Spotlight Sports Group. Rob, tell us all about yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob Black. I'm the B2B sales director at Spotlight Sports Group, looking after all of our customers in the UK and the rest of the world, with the exclusion of the US. So that means that myself and my team sell content into operators, affiliates and publishers. And that could be anything from our Racing Post integrated API race cards through to in-play bet prompts, long-term content hubs, and even sort of smaller items like short-term editorial for SEO and engagement.
Excellent, thanks Rob. And from 888 William Hill, we've got Owen Duffy. Hi Owen.
Hi Bruce, and thanks for allowing me to join the discussion today. Real pleasure to speak about this topic. Yeah, my main responsibility as head of sport products at 888 William Hill is to create great product experiences for our customers to enjoy, really helping us deliver, a really solid product across all of our brands and markets across Europe and the US. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm in the industry probably over 10 years at this stage now. Initially kicked off my career in Paddy Power, moving on to a small startup called bettors, and through mergers and acquisitions, I finally find myself at 888 William Hill now. So really delighted to be here, and hopefully we'll have a good conversation.
Absolutely. Great to have you, Owen, and also great to have Andrew Mook from Skybet. Hello, Andrew. Tell us all about yourself.
Hi, Bruce. I'm head of marketing strategy and planning at Skybet. I've been here for about 5 years. Previous to that, I was kind of agency side for quite a lot of years. And then back in the day, I also worked at a company called Grand Parade, who obviously knew a bit about content as well. So I probably got a kind of view of the old and new and what it means to punters today.
Fantastic. So no better team to talk about actionable content. Before we get stuck into the nitty gritty of it though, Rob, actionable content, what exactly are we talking about here? Can you maybe just give us a couple of examples?
Yeah, so I think obviously we sell content in a variety of different ways, and probably how we differentiate ourselves from other suppliers is that we like to think that there's a really informative angle which can inform a bettor and give them increased confidence in their betting decision. So this means that A, it's clear to understand. B, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting. So there's obviously reams of data and insights out there, but actually we try to present information back to punters in a way that kind of deciphers that, which means they don't have to go wading through loads and loads of data, and also that it's against the kind of popular markets and the interesting angles. So we're not just giving possession data, for example, for the sake of possession data. We're actually informing people across core markets, whether that be both teams to score, over under goals markets and things like that. The kind of insights that really inform better decisions rather than just stats and data or reams of text for the sake of it.
And just tell us how the SSG team go about creating the concepts for some of these product ideas.
Yeah, so we've had a number of products. I suppose our leading one being Superfeed, that's been around for a little while now. We have both an in-play and a pre-play variants upon that. And really, we work with some of our partners historically, and we work with their customer base to conduct user testing to ensure that we're working with them across, as I said, the key markets, and also deciphering content and delivering it into a way that informs customers and allows them to have stronger opinions and be more confident in their betting selections, really.
Okay, Andrew, from an operator's perspective, I mean, obviously, traditionally, bookmakers have offered things you can bet on and the odds, and that's been pretty much it. But it feels like there's been a definite pivot towards becoming more of a content provider as well. How important has that been?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think like the way that the game and the integration of betting in the game of football and horse racing as well, I suppose, has advanced, is just as kind of insatiable thirst for all of that detail. And you look at the way that Created Bets markets have brought around, the kind of the minutiae of that detail, as well as kind of there's a need to service a much more granular level of information that informs a customer a win, draw, win of old to decide, who's going to win an outright, is very top level now. And obviously customers don't want to have to, visit 5 or 6 sites to kind of pull all this stuff together.
And Owen, on that kind of vibe, is it the intention for some operators to become a kind of one-stop shop here, whereby the customer can go on and not just be presented with reams of propositions, but actually to give them some help, and ideally independent help, to help them to make an informed decision?
Yeah, absolutely, Bruce. So we've seen it ourselves in customer research that, customers are using third-party apps and tools to really inform their betting needs. So I think there's a really nice halfway house that operators can definitely achieve by, integrating a lot more stats, article content, editorial content into their sportsbooks. And we're starting to see a lot of that in the industry right now. So, we have the likes of, ESPN Bet, we've got Live Score Bet, a lot of these really rich data companies that are branching into sports betting. So it's a really interesting space at the moment.
Absolutely. And Andrew, just in terms of that kind of, I suppose, friction between a bookmaker whose intention, let's be honest about it, is to win money off the customer, and to be seen to be helping the customer as well. Does it help to have kind of independently badged content as well, do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's always benefit to have those trust signals, and I think that integrity, whether it's your own content that you're creating or that of a third party that you're kind of bringing into the sites, the important thing. And I think it's at the point at which a customer engages is important as well. You look at the way that having relevant content in and around key events allows customers to pre-engage, that kind of ability to observe a few different sources of content and allow them to form their own opinion, I think gets over that a little bit. So yeah, having it ever present, and in the right places is one of the challenges, so that the customer can always make up their own mind. But it's something that is definitely needed.
And Owen, do you guys measure the kind of success and the traffic on these content pages, and to just gauge the levels of engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously like measuring success is a really important part of product management, and making sure that customers are enjoying the features that you're using is very important. So yeah, we have a lot of article content that's integrated across a couple of our websites. So Sports Illustrated, our brand out in the US, we have a really rich content experience out there, and we found that customers really do like to engage with those articles and content. So yeah, it's important that we track it and make sure that we're presenting the right information to customers as well.
Rob, obviously, as we've said, the world of sports betting is ever changing. I mean, who would have thought 10, 15 years ago that in-play would be as massive as it is? We're looking at bet builders now, and also player markets. I mean, again, the idea 5 years ago of betting on how many shots on target or assists players would have would be unheard of. But they really do get a lot of traction, don't they? So I guess it's as much about following those trends and adapting the product range to meet the needs of the punter, isn't it, as anything else?
Yeah, and our in-play product has been really popular with punters, actually, like since we launched it, and we've done various in-play tests. So that product supplies tips in real time, so kind of leveraging the historic match data, but in response to things that actually happen on the pitch themselves there, and then we'll deliver something that's editorially rich. Again, it's actionable, so that customers know exactly what they should be moving towards. And we know that customers love that sort of content. So testing has shown sort of exponential usage growth over time. We've also seen from turnover data that on average customers will stake £21 extra on in-play betting per month per user, versus those that don't see that style of content. And like you mentioned there, Bruce, we've had to evolve that product. I mean, I say that almost grudgingly, but it's not. The market has changed, and we've actually, as a result, we've increased the volume of markets now we're now at dozens of markets within that in-play feed, and a lot of that has been the growth of sort of player markets, even increasing sort of team markets within the in-play sector as well. So we've seen sort of drastic changes to that product in the last probably 12 to 18 months, which has been really great to see. Us moving with the times of the interest in the customers and where the operators want, are seeing growth themselves.
And Andrew, you described yourself as something as a veteran at the start of this. Believe me, you're a lot less of a veteran than I am. But I guess we've both been around long enough to remember the days before the in-play explosion. But I guess right now, if someone said to you that your mobile and desktop screens during a football match weren't allowed to have things like the in-play viz, you'd have a fit now, wouldn't you? I mean, it's just become a part and parcel of what you offer, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose like one of the big advancements, I suppose, is the pre and post bet tracking. So, within Sky Bet, we've launched this element of so far tracking. So when you've got a bet that's got some of those markets in, around shots on targets and things, customers want to stay engaged, probably in a second screening environment. They're looking at what's happening in the match, and they're also looking, have those legs within that qualifying bet been fulfilled. So obviously that kind of engagement around what am I putting in this bet, the research that goes into it, and then how those kind of items are getting ticked off, as you head through it, it's moved into a fully kind of integrated space where obviously pitch viz is important, but it's now even getting that granularity so that you don't have to head out or try and cross-reference something to know whether it's landed. So yeah, definitely a big part of it.
I know. And what's the end game with all this now? Because I mean, Rob and I have discussed in the past, things like if you get, say, a list of first scorers for a game, how can we present data that enables you to say, what their current form is, what their minutes per goal is, that kind of thing. Could you almost see a situation where you're trying to offer info with pretty much every single betting proposition, or certainly the vast majority in the main markets?
Yeah, definitely. So I think when we look at products in the industry today, like I don't believe that we've fully cracked the content experience around bet builders. For example, if we look back at the weekend there, if I wanted to have a bet on Haaland to have 2 shots on target and to couple that up with Odegaard 50 plus passes, there's nowhere that I can really access that information intuitively within a sportsbook today. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for operators to expand on their stats offering and kind of build that into the product itself. Just to touch on in-play then, I think speed and simplicity is so critical for in-play betting. So while we try and develop these experiences, I think it's important that we don't impinge the customer on their main goals, which is ultimately bet placement. So there's a lot of challenges there. Obviously data is a challenge as well, and I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity in the future for operators there.
And Andrew, I'd like to ask the same question to you. How far down this journey of operators becoming info sources as well have we gone? Are we pretty much there, or do you think that it still feels like there's some fairly exciting new potential innovations to be launched, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's how much do we want to get into finding an angle for a customer? Because you look at some kind of ever-present tipsters that are doing this kind of thing with cheat sheets and those kind of things, and actually they're genuinely finding an angle. And I suppose there's presenting data at scale and you can pick through it yourself, or there's kind of that nuance of actually finding kind of the relevant parts of that data. And I suppose to your point, which you made originally, is how far down the line can we go with that, and where does the credibility start and stop? And obviously there are patterns and there are trends that form opinion, and I suppose it's how much of that do we control versus what the customer wants to take from that data set.
And one more question to the pair of you from an operator perspective: is there ever any tension between, say, the traders who just want people to just get on and bet, and perhaps you guys who are a little bit more content evangelists and content champions? Owen, do you find that people are saying, look, hang on a sec, every square centimetre of our mobile screen is precious here, we want people betting, but there's also people within the organisation who want to provide that slightly richer customer experience?
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium there for people in the org. I think as long as we're aligned on a strategy, and I think alignment is very important across trading, product, marketing teams around what we're trying to achieve. I think that's the key nooks to us. Like I'd agree. Like, I mean, ultimately we have to remember customers are coming onto site to place bets, and we really want to make that experience intuitive. So it's important that the experience that we present, they're in clear, easy to access areas, and they're not really hindering customers from doing what they want to do.
And Andrew, does that chime pretty much with your thoughts? Is there some resistance from the kind of old school traders who are like, look, can we just get people betting here?
Yeah, I suppose obviously with a view and kind of like time on site is an interesting thing. Like the way that football fans in general kind of engage, in the social culture of football now has changed massively. It's in and around the game. It's not just the 90 minutes. There's so much content to consume, across social watch-alongs. There's many different ways to interact with it. And I suppose one of the challenges I think for operators is how do we actually make the culture and the excitement and enjoyment of football and the stats in and around it an engaging proposition with a view to betting with us, kind of in that moment. So I think, like, if you were to look at maybe a more traditional view, it would be that time on site and conversion are a key metric, but then added to that, what does engagement bring to that? And if you're engaging customers in the sports that they love, in and around the stats that are relevant to them, then I think there's definitely an upside to that as well.
Well, talking of that, I mean, Rob, we've certainly seen really good engagement levels from the big event hubs that Spotlight Sports Group have created, and Andrew and Owen's companies have both picked up on those. So, whether it's Cheltenham or the World Cup or the Olympics, these big events are huge for the operators in terms of recruiting and maybe introducing people to sort of bets they wouldn't normally have. What have SSG been doing, Rob, to kind of maximize the opportunity there in terms of big events?
Yeah, so I think obviously these events are huge, and Andrew mentioned insatiable appetite for content earlier from consumers, and I think you see that ever more at these bigger events, and as a result, something like a Cheltenham or a World Cup is both a great acquisition tool for operators, but as much as that, it's really valuable from a retention perspective. So I think it's desirable to have an improved content offering. I think probably one of the things that we've really managed to work well with some of our partners on is doing so much of the heavy lifting from a technical implementation point of view. So we've gone out and built kind of effectively entire sites, but they feel like a seamless part of the sports book. But it's very light touch in terms of integration, and as a result, all of the technical burden that would otherwise be with the operator. So as big as those big events are, I'm not sure that the operators can always justify a huge amount of tech resource for something that might only be 5 days or a month in the case of a major tournament. So that's where we've had a lot of success is in doing a lot more of the technical heavy lifting. We also have a sort of multifaceted approach that has appealed to a wide range of different types of players. So we've got everything from sort of long form, quite in-depth editorial content in there through to really digestible one-line tipping content and sort of data visualization techniques as well to inform perhaps your more casual punters. And we've seen the impact of these has been really strong. We've had great uptake from a customer perspective, from the point of view of working with our operators. But we're also, helping them to acquire new customers, but actually retaining some of the most valuable players. One of the key insights we've found is that the players, your most loyal customers, are the ones that will engage most frequently with this style of content. So as much as they might be with you year round, their appetite for these big sporting events and the content that supports it is even increased, is ever more increased during this time as well.
Excellent. Okay, well, while I try and work out whether Rob is in a sparsely furnished room or a desert at sunset, I'll ask Andrew, just in terms of event hubs. I mean, Sky Bet have obviously had the pre-season, the really successful pre-season hub, which SSG collaborated on. How big a deal are these for you guys?
Yeah, they're really important. They've kind of specifically the start of season one become really integral to our marketing strategy as a whole. Obviously, sometimes you see these kind of hubs pop up, and they just feel like something that does obviously assist a customer at a key time. But for us, it's been quite a bit more than that in terms of looking at consumer rhythms, looking at things like there's a metric called buzz, which measures social sentiment and search, and when a fan's really getting excited about football, and that's not 2 or 3 days before kickoff, that's 2 or 3 weeks out, and the ability to over a non-tournament summer, for example, you've probably got a lapsed customer base, the ability to go out and to be able to speak to those customers about sport that they love in advance of a new season's, obviously a real key time. And, the Spotlight Group have done a great collaboration with us on kind of getting those kind of hubs in a position that they do exactly that job.
And Owen, I think the Euros were a good example as well, weren't they? I think I think you guys had a really, really good Euros hub on there, and I think there was a lot of really popular stuff on there, and there was also quite a lot of learnings on that, I think, weren't there, in terms of what worked?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was actually the World Cup that we went live with. But
sorry, World Cup. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up with all these Winter World Cups and Euros taking place in the wrong year and that kind of thing.
Oh, good. No, yeah, we had a really strong collaboration with the guys, and we're seeing really strong engagement across both of our UK and Spanish audiences. So, yeah, from a customer's perspective, these hubs really add to the experience. Having strong editorial content, statistical information available that doesn't require much technical overhead is quite important for us. From customer insights, we see that the customers can be quite skeptical of self-promoted tips, or let's say traders tips that are added on site. So having that kind of independent authority on content is quite important, and it worked out quite well for us.
And I think discoverability is a really important thing as well, isn't it? I think both in terms of the Sky Bet pre-season and the World Cup hubs that you put them front and central, didn't you? If you're going to go to the effort of having this stuff, there's no point in hiding it away, is there?
Yeah, we put them in contextual areas to customers' betting needs. So, for example, let's say on the opening fixture, or all the fixtures really, we added the hub kind of deep linked into specific pages for the hub. So we had match previews, we had team lineups, we had really good content there for players to consume. So we found that actually worked a lot better than having this kind of big landing area on the site. We found that the more contextual the area was, and how we could link into those areas, it actually worked out a little bit better for us.
And Andrew, just in terms of regulations, I mean, obviously, as we've touched upon, they are tightening in a lot of countries. There's advertising restrictions. With your kind of marketing hat on, how does that affect budgets, and how might it affect it if, for instance, with the impending white paper in the UK, could there be a situation where, with an inability to market in traditional ways, you're actually going to put more focus even on content on the site? It's a difficult one to see how it's going to pan out, but presumably it could actually open up more opportunities in this area.
Yeah, I suppose things like cap code regulation around player imagery and things like that are obviously, a key thing at the moment. And obviously the brilliantly crafted editorial word is not going to fall foul of that, hopefully. So I think where you look at specifically long form and things like that, and the ability to, kind of build a story in and around a market or a bet, should hopefully be something that gives us, a long and fruitful avenue towards kind of engaging customers. But yeah, and I think the other thing as well is content. Obviously, we're talking about in kind of hub sense, but just as a general kind of thing, you look at the way that kind of younger audiences, modern football fans are engaging, in and around football. They're engaging in content in general. Do you know what I mean? That they don't typically like to be advertised to anyway. So there's kind of almost a future proof into being relevant and in context with a certain subset of customers as well, who just expect that from good digital experiences, kind of that they get from all other brands as well. So yeah, it's not only the regulation, it's also kind of future proof in the way that customers consume information, across a wide variety of verticals as well.
And Rob, has regulation changed the way that you guys approach things in terms of products?
I wouldn't say necessarily has changed how we approach things. I think the biggest shift we've seen is a pure basic level, that there's increased demand now in mature markets. As we've probably sort of touched upon, offers and bonuses are getting increasingly limited for operators, both from a regulatory perspective, but also as the market changes, there's probably less of a commercial reasoning to be able to use them. So with that, there's less options for our operators to be able to retain and acquire customers, and I think content has become more important as a result, to be able to differentiate yourself and improve that customer experience as part of the wider sort of product and marketing mix. Content is starting to play an ever more important role. This has really played out with some of the insights we've garnered from doing kind of global activations with some of our customers. We've found that content is even more sought after within the kind of tighter regulated markets, really, that there's a disproportionate impact. Content works everywhere, absolutely, and I wouldn't say anything different, obviously, on this call, but I think it works even more effectively within some of the markets that are seeing less ability to use offers and bonuses, and sort of some of the more traditional sports betting marketing levers that have been used over the years.
And obviously, Owen, on regulations, your company has brands and operates, as indeed does Andrew's, but globally, I guess there's a variety of different kind of geo challenges, isn't there, that you've got to sort of budget for and overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think Rob hit the nail on the head there. Like, if we just talk about Spain, we obviously that market has seen some significant restrictions in place around advertising and new player bonusing. I think for me, it adds more weight onto the product experience for players. So the product experience becomes, the key retention activity. Making sure that you've the right content in front of customers, and you're giving them a really strong and intuitive experience. So yeah, I guess regulations are tightening everywhere, and ultimately, as operators, we need to make sure that we're adhering to the regulators' requirements. And yeah, it's an important area in our business for sure. So I think my next call after this will be jumping onto a compliance call, as it is. So it's a big focus for us.
It certainly is. And I mean, as an illustration of just how tight the regulations are, particularly in Spain, we were doing some affiliate work over there, and providing tips on a variety of events. And believe it or not, one of the laws is that the tipster is supposed to put at least 25 cents on every tip they put up. And I was just thinking how, if that had been in place throughout my career, I'd do well to still have a house. But anyway, yes, it's certainly an interesting time. And there's a lot of challenges. Before you go, gentlemen, I will press you for a tip. Premier League season getting interesting. Arsenal beat Man City at the weekend. So give us a tip on the Premier League. What's going to happen? It could be a team to win the league, could be a team to go down, it could be a top scorer. We'll start with you, Andrew.
I would go for Everton to get relegated. One of the longest ever top flight continuous records. I think they scraped through last year. I just don't know if they'll have the strength to stay up this year.
Okay, and if you're tuning into this for the first time in May 2024 and Everton had just qualified for the Champions League, don't hold it against Andrew. Owen, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I actually think Spurs might have a good run. I think City are kind of struggling at the moment, so I think if Spurs can sign a top striker in January, I'd kind of put them up there maybe for top two. Yeah, I think that could be an edge. There could be an edge there if they sign a decent striker.
Okay, Rob, I know full well you're West Ham biased, so you're not allowed to do anything West Ham related.
Okay, well, I'm going to struggle a little bit there, Bruce. I've towed the party line all through this call, so I think I'll tow a different party line, which is the West Ham one for this. I'm going to tip West Ham to finish top six. I think obviously we had a bad Premier League season last year. Much improved start this year, and we've had some tough fixtures to start off with. I think some of the other big clubs, Chelsea, Man United, are struggling. I think Brighton might be distracted by their European endeavours as the season wears on, and I think Spurs will probably drop off. And they've been very lucky to sit top of the table at the international break.
Okay, I will chance mine with Alexander Isak from Newcastle in the golden boot market without Haaland. There you go. Hopefully there's a few winners to end up with. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion, and don't forget to visit spotlightsportsgroup.com to learn more about going above and beyond the odds for your audience in the coming years.